Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Andrew Middleton. Andrew is the owner of the Map Center, which is located in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. It's the oldest map store in New England and the second oldest in the United States. During the program, we're finding out why and how Andrew came to be the owner of the Map Center and how it's grown and developed under his leadership. We'll go on a behind the scenes tour and in the process come to better understand and appreciate the wide range of maps, art, posters, globes, geographical curiosities, and other opportunities that are available for visitors today. Let's start by meeting Andrew and then hearing all about the Map Center. Welcome, Andrew. So delighted you're able to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm flattered that you're so excited about this mission as much as I am.
We are going to spend most of the time on the Map Center, the mission, your vision, which is fascinating. But what's equally as fascinating is how you got here. Could you briefly start by just sharing a little bit about your background, professional
Yeah.
interest, and how you made your way from California to Pawtucket, Rhode Island?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a story that I've gotten a lot of mileage out of. That's a little cartographic humor. So I grew up in central New York. I went to school at the University of New Hampshire, and I studied environmental conservation. And one of the reasons that I was really interested in conservation, I still am, is that I love that it never required that I specialized too much. I got to learn a little bit of chemistry and a little bit of biology and a little bit of statistics and law and policy, and I loved not having to decide. And of course, when I graduated, I had done such a good job of not deciding that I was perfectly unemployable at all of it. But I had taken one class in geographic information systems, which is mapping with computers. I had been aware of the field in high school, and I knew that it was something that I wanted to try. But I still only had like that one introductory course, and um, graduating just a couple years after the Great Recession, I was just kind of trying to ride that one class from one opportunity to another. I rode it across the country to the Bay Area, um, where I actually applied to jobs in California well on the East Coast, pretending that I was a local applicant when I really wasn't. I lied on my resume and I put my friend's San Francisco address. I got a job over the phone. I drove across the country. I worked contract to contract and um, a couple interesting assignments like Apple Maps for a little while, Pacific Gas and Electric, one of the largest utility companies in North America. Um, and I got pretty good at GIS. Um, it's a big technical field. It can take you to a lot of different places. The turnover was pretty challenging. I'd work someplace for a while, and then the engineering department would turn over or something like that. And it was kind of an exhausting field to be a part of for a long time. And in the spring of 2023, just about 2 years ago this week, really.
Hmm.
Um, I saw an article in the Providence Journal that was floating around on Twitter among all of my map nerd friends. And there was this story about this gentleman, Andy Nosel, who was the third owner of the Pawtucket Map Center in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And he was making this kind of absurd offer. He said, if you send me an email about why you should run the Map Center, I'll give it to you. And like, I had no immediate plans of moving back to the East Coast. Um, like my parents grew up nearby here. My parents met at Dean Junior College in Franklin, Mass. So like this area has never been like too unfamiliar to me, but like
Mhm.
it was never like um a part of the world that was calling me back, except for this like one crazy thing. And I sent him an email, and you know, I figured, you know, he'd probably say no anyway. So like I'll just send it out, and I'll make a decision if I have to. Um and uh and he called me out on it. And then I had to make a decision. I flew out to check out the store, and I met Andy, and I had some ideas for, you know, the kinds of things that I would do if I was crazy enough to actually take up the offer. And I said yes, and I shook his hand, and I flew back to the West Coast, and then I proceeded to have like a 6 month midlife crisis, trying to decide if I actually wanted to do this. And you know, to reduce a long period of anxiety down to a single decision, you know, I realized that it was such a privilege that I loved living in Oakland, California. It's a really amazing place. I love all my friends there, still keep in touch with everyone. Um, and I also really liked the idea of doing this absolutely absurd thing that I have the real crazy opportunity to get to do that not many people get to do. So if I have two really great options, I should probably do the one that's a better story. And you know, a month after making that decision in August, you know, I moved across the country, and um, you know, I started officially taking over the Map Center October 1st, 2023. So I'm about a year and a half in, and we're a long way from where we need to be, but we get a little bit closer every day.
It's great. It's interesting you use the word story because I know that's a big part of what you envision maps to be. And we'll hear a little bit about that shortly. What's
Yeah.
been some of the challenges that really stand out in making this transition?
How
Uh,
long is your program? Oh dear. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of little things, you know, figuring out how to use a laminator, learning how to do framing. Like I'm a computer guy who studied bugs in college, you know, and all of a sudden I have to figure out how to cut glass reliably and make wholesale orders and file state sales tax. You know, there are a lot of things to learn how to do. And and also the thing that I wanted to do with this store is something that there isn't a whole lot of um, precedent for. There are not many people who are doing what I'm doing, and you know, maybe there's a good reason for that. But also, I didn't. There are a lot of ways to do what I'm doing, um, and I'm the reason that I chose to do things in the style that I'm doing because oh, how do I say this without throwing too much shade? No, in all we can cut a certain amount of this. Um, I love an antique store. I love an antique map store. But I'm someone who makes maps, and most of my friends make maps, and I'm vastly more interested in the maps that my colleagues are making, the ones that are still being made by creative people. And there's something that feels really sad about some, certainly not all, but some antique map stores. It feels like we're harvesting the crops that were planted 200 years ago. We're not planting anything of their own. And I wanted to be part of not only harvesting, but also planting. And and the reason that no one's doing that is because it's hard. And you have to build your portfolio relationship by relationship. You know, I have something like 2 dozen individual artists and cartographers that are contributing to my collection here. I get to sell their work, and I hopefully, you know, I'm trying to get them paid. And that's important to me. And it is also a lot harder to do than simply going to like a mass market publisher website and just clicking buy, or going to an estate sale and buying something for $20 and then razor blading the pages out and then putting them under glass and then flipping them for 300. Like, I think most people who interact with the American capitalist economy have some feelings about it. And I have some flexibility. I have a regular 9 to 5 consulting job that I do in addition to running a small business. And like that gives me some flexibility to
Mm.
try some new things. And I'm trying to use that flexibility in a way that matches my values.
It's only been, as you say, a year and a half since you touched down, getting
Mm,
things off the ground. What have been a couple noticeable changes, or where do you envision things going in, say, the upcoming year or two?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there have been a lot of changes. The first one I think is that I want to first put some respect on the name of my predecessor, Andy Nosell. I mean, he ran the business from, I think, I should know these numbers offhand, and I don't. It's like 1982 to
Wow.
2023.
Wow.
And he bought a house and raised a family and was like a real, like, kind of a, how do I want to put this? Like he's just like a known character in Pawtucket and Providence. And
I can
I
see.
still get people saying, "Oh, you run the map center, the one on North Main Street," and like it hasn't been on North Main Street in 7 years. Um, but like even people who were not regular customers knew it, you know, and I think the community was really proud of it, and they're proud of Andy. And so one of my challenges was to take the business that Andy had worked to build up, not just preserve from the folks that he bought it from, but to can build off of that, um, and do so in a way that is like financially sustainable in 2025.
Mm.
The business model that works in 1995 is irrelevant in 2025. Like our relationship to maps is completely different. The tagline for Andy's business was "Maps that help you." And I think that's a fine tagline. I think maps can help you. I think maps should help you. And the reason that people are interested in maps today is not because they have a specific problem that they want to solve. It's because they think that maps are neat and that
Mm.
maps are items of curiosity. And as we mentioned earlier, and because they have a good story, I think the intrinsic value of a map is greater than their instrumental value. And um, and another really important aspect here is that the largest corporations on planet Earth right now are giving away information.
Mhm.
And if they're giving away information, it's probably not a great business plan to try to sell that same information.
Mhm.
So I have complicated feelings about Google Maps and Bing Maps and Apple Maps. I think they're mostly pretty darn good products. I use them as a regular part of my moving around the world. Um, but the things that I sell, I do not think are competing with that product. Um,
Speaking of that, how do you approach curating maps
hmm.
that challenge what I think you're referring to, those traditional narratives?
Yeah, yeah. So this is the part where it'd probably be good to I'll have to send you some files that you can edit into the conversation. One of my favorite maps, and this is one of like the earlier maps that I was able to bring into the business. Um, there's a wonderful organization called the Decolonial Atlas, and it is a mostly online community of indigenous folks across North America, and they're making maps from an indigenous perspective.
Yeah.
Growing up as, a white kid in suburban central New York, I was only a couple county, like I wasn't that far away from the Onondaga Reservation, but my exposure to that community was very limited. And all of the maps that I saw in my American history classes, were all made by European Americans. I did not get to see what a map of the United States from an indigenous perspective looked like. It was beyond my imagination. So that the Decolonial Atlas is putting together all these amazing maps, making the intellectual property free online for download, is just such an incredible resource. And I started a conversation with them and said that I have access to these large format printing machines. You are trying to get your message out, you're trying to get your worldview out. I can help you distribute it. I can make it like leak into the real world. You know, if people are interested in what you're trying to do, but they want like an actual physical map, like I'll do the printing, I'll do the shipping, I'll do the e-commerce part. And this is me practicing, hopefully
Mhm.
for the future, but like this is me trying out being a publisher.
Mm,
And the Decolonial Atlas put together a really incredible map called Turtle Island Decolonized. And the premise is that it's North America from an indigenous perspective, and it is rotated 90 degrees. And I love holding this map up for people and say, have you ever been to Turtle Island? Is that a place that you recognize? And they're like, oh, is that in the Caribbean somewhere? Like where is that? And then you just this little rotate it 90 degrees, and all of a sudden it's the same North America that they've seen in maps that they're familiar with. And it's just that 90-degree difference is really powerful. And you see people going, oh, okay, I get it now. And all of the labels on this map are of the place name in the local indigenous language,
mm,
which
mhm,
is never going to make everybody happy. You know, tribal territory was fluid and it changed over time. So, it's not comprehensive. It's not designed to be. No one pretends that it is. Um, but it's one important perspective that most folks in the United States do not get to experience.
for
And I
sure,
I
sure.
love being the person who can introduce people to that. So I love a map that melts your brain a little bit.
What a nice way to put it. For those who haven't had the opportunity to make the way to the Map Center yet, could you just give us a brief overview of some of the features that stand out and that you're trying to build up and expand upon?
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I really felt strongly about when I started working working here, I started owning it, is there are very, very few like brick and mortar map stores that you can visit. And like growing up, like the places that I begged my parents to take me were places like the Discovery Channel store at the mall. I liked, even if I didn't buy a whole lot of things there, they were just like good places to explore. And the fact that the Map Center is one of only two, as far as I can tell, contemporary map stores in the United States, the other one being Metzger's Map in Seattle. Um, I really wanted to prioritize what an amazing space this is, what a good place this is to come. This is a place about places.
Hmm.
Um, so um, it does look a bit like a bomb went off, and I try very hard to organize things. It's a bit of a losing battle. But I have a number of older maps on display. I have a number of framed pieces. I've got a great map of Boston from like 1890. I've got a lot, every square foot of wall space is taken up. But I also have bookshelves filled with all kinds of like atlases, books about geography, books about cities, transit lines, subways, railroads. I have kind of a workshop space. One of the things that I'm kind of worried about for long-term sustainability is like I've got a little bit of a workshop, I've got a little bit of a gallery, I've got a little bit of a museum. I'm trying to do all of it at the same time, and I kind of wonder like if I want to do any of those really well, I might have to start making decisions. And I think as I've alluded to early, I'm not always great at that. So um, yeah, we're a little bit of everything. We're kind of marginal at all of them. But it's a
Well,
but it's but it's a good combination. Like
you're well on your way.
all of those things complement each other. Someone can come in and look at something on the wall and decide that they like something kind of like it, or that it tells a story or reminds them of something that maybe that thing that they're looking at isn't 100% it, but like maybe I can say like, well, I can print something in 20 minutes that might do the thing that you want it to do.
Mhm.
And if you come back 2 weeks later, I can have it framed and ready for you to put on the wall. And until then, if you want like a book about the best hikes you can do with your dog in southern New England, like, you can take that in the meantime. So it's eclectic. It's a little weird. I've got stuff you're not going to see anywhere else. I have a lot of maps that are made by really talented people that only sell their work otherwise online.
Huh.
And so,
Interesting.
again, like I don't think of Google Maps as my competition. I really think of my competition more as like Etsy.
Mm,
or like an
yeah.
online retail space.
Mhm.
Um,
You,
as
you know, Andrew, you've mentioned you'd like more artist or community-driven collaborations.
yes.
What are some of the projects you have in mind?
Oh man, I'm really painting an autobiography here, but I have having new ideas has never been my limiting factor. I've got a long list of projects that I'd like to do one day. Um, as far as community collaborative projects, the first one that I want to highlight is that I've had half a dozen kids under the age of 16 bringing in maps that they've made that they're really proud of that they want to
Oh,
show me.
fabulous, fabulous.
And I have a standing offer, and this can go to any one of your viewers. Um, I will laminate any piece of artwork that you produce, and this is an offer for kids. If you give me a map that you've made that's signed by you, and as well as as you give me permission to display it at the map center. So if you like to show off your kid's map on your home refrigerator, this is the best refrigerator you could hope for. I wanna put that creativity on display. I think it's important part of my message and my goal here is that like I want people to be skeptical of maps, but I also want people to feel empowered that like very trained, specialized, interesting, educated people have been making maps, and also people with no more qualifications than you have made great
Mm,
maps. And all maps are a little bit wrong, which means that like your maps, which will inevitably also be a little bit wrong, fit right in. There's a wonderful local cartographer, George Madison, who was a U.S. Forest Service employee in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. Um, Rhode Island native son. When he was not fighting fires or being a ranger, he was making maps, and he filled them with all kinds of wonderful marginalia. Like they're little cartoons that are so fun, and they're like such a moment in time. They have so much character. Are they good maps? I mean, they're not professional. Um, but the fact that they have so much character and they represent the place so well, they're
mhm,
some of my favorite maps of Rhode Island. Um, so I, that sort of like folk cartography, I think, is really important. Um, uh, I have a wonderful book called Cemetery Maps, and it's a
mm.
collection of maps of cemeteries um, from around the world, mostly the United States. Swan Point in Providence is in there twice. The book is by Amy Martin, and it looks like a zine, looks like a comic book,
Ah,
and it's
fun.
people are interpreting really important places to them, places that have like real strong emotional anchor to them, and trying to show a stranger why that this place is important. And it's such a beautiful project, and it's that kind of energy that I'm trying to cultivate. Um, as far as other community projects, this one's been on the back burner for a long time, but I had this idea of global tourism maps that are made by people who live in tourist towns, but are told from the perspective of the local and are not intended to show you where the best beach is or where the best
Mm,
underrated bar is. It would be a map of I grew up in this place that other people think of as a vacation destination, but for me it was just home.
mm.
And I wonder what maps like that would look like. And so I've been sort of passively inviting people to submit. If you happen to live in a place that you think of as a tourist town,
Yeah.
however you
Oh,
define that, I would be so curious to see what that would be like and
interesting idea
create an
for
anthology.
sure. Do you envision school visits, workshops, those type of endeavors?
I've had a couple of homeschool groups come in, and they were so much fun. They were really great. I think this space can handle about 30 people, and that's kind of pushing it. So a larger school group is really kind of at the limits of what I could do. But I have taken the show on the road. I've gotten to visit the Croft School in Providence. I had the great privilege of working with my older sibling, Margaret Middleton. Margaret is a museum exhibit designer and has been going to the New England Museum Association conference for years, and they invited me along to do a dual presentation for the NEMA conference in Newport, Rhode Island in November. And so we got to do like a fun, kid-friendly activity, but for museum nerds. And it was just so much fun.
Oh, that's great.
So part of the way that I'm envisioning being a more active member of the community is, more stuff made by young people. I would like to do some workshops for like modern computer map making because that's kind of my bread and butter. Um, Talking to educators about how to read a map like a cartographer.
Mm.
Um, and maybe if I make some modifications to the space that I have in the future, I would like to have more um, kid-proofed spaces that are more appropriate for visitors of all ages. Like right now, parents come by with their small children. I love it. That's great. If there were like more than 10 of them, I think something's likely to get broken.
Yeah.
So
Understand.
that's
You
that's the
know,
that's the 2-year plan.
fabulous, fabulous. In closing, what's been some of the reaction and feedback from visitors, the community, about your presence in the Map Center and where things are headed?
Yeah. I had a strange moment in December when I wrote a tweet on Blue Sky that went kind of viral. Um, and I went from being the holder of a torch that had been carried for a very long time to someone who is doing something genuinely different. I think that was sort of a moment of inflection where it wasn't just oh, he's just took over from the old guy. It's like, oh no, he's actually doing something different.
Hmm.
Um, and whenever you get that kind of attention online, like the cardinal rule is like don't read the comments.
Right, right.
And I read every one of the comments,
It's hard not to. Yeah.
and they were all good. They were all lovely. And I think a lot of people like maps in the same way a lot of people like bird watching. There are like a handful of people that are real into it. There's some people that will get like a $600 pair of binoculars and, and a 3-week trip to some exotic island just to see
Hmm.
a particular bird. But like most people just kind of like birds. There's no real like anti-bird lobby. Um, and in the same way with maps, you get a handful of people that are real obsessive, like into it. And I love talking to those people. But like most people just think that maps are kind of cool.
For sure, for sure.
And that the fact that it's a place that you can visit, like you can Google maps, not just with Google Maps, but you can Google image maps. And there are a lot of great websites and resources where you can do that. There are a lot of great libraries and state archives like that exists. It's been there. It's always been available. Um, but to be able to go to a place and see it is really special. It's a very different kind of experience. When the world is online, the analog becomes novelty. And the fact that I have a sort of obsessive fascination with a certain amount of energy that I think other people can kind of pick up on and roll with,
Most
um,
definitely.
then yeah, it's one of those things that like I don't think many people were like actively yearning for in their community. I don't think anyone was like, shucks, if only there was a map store in my house,
Yeah.
in my neighborhood. Um, but like now that they know that there is one, they've got to come.
Sure. And on that note, Andrew, we're going to have to wrap up, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. Look forward to visiting in the near future. Eager to follow your plans. I know in our credits, there'll be your website, Instagram
Hmm.
contact, so viewers can find what's new and what you've been involved with. But this is wonderful. You've accomplished a lot in such a short period of time. And I know, as we've heard, your plans are grand in the near and upcoming future. So continued success with future endeavors.
Well, thank you very much, Jay. It means a lot to me.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.